Hello, welcome to the No Holds Barred Witchcraft podcast. Chris is here, and I'm going to ask him a very deep and meaningful question. Right, Chris, does being evil have a price?
No, I'm amazing.
And is that price £666? Or is that price an eternity in hell? I don't know. Does being evil have a price?
Nah, hell's a holiday.
Some would say that it does, but then others would say, well, there's some truly evil people in the world that seem to get away with everything. They seem to get away with murder, Chris. Do they truly get away? Well, some of our good Christian friends would say they can never truly escape because they may live a long, fulfilling, happy life, sipping cocktails on the beach after committing great problems for the world, fraud, what else is a big one? Genocide, all of that sort of stuff. But then they die and then they get their repercussions. Some of our other new agey friends would say, well, it's all right, Liam, don't worry, next time they'll come back as a slug. And I'd be like, okay, that's all very convenient. So does evil truly have a price? And is it one that's uncomfortable? Something that you wouldn't want to pay?
I don't know. I'm not of the feeling that there is cosmic order in such a way. That sounds too much like morality to me.
Yes. Which doesn't really exist in other planes, does it?
Exactly. So
It's quite a human construct.
does it have any real matter?
Well, I
You
say it's a human construct. Other animals have it. Um, it is interesting. Evil. How would you define evil? What would you define as evil? You know, I mean, we could give you the short answer. You would just look in the mirror, wouldn't you? But I mean, in terms of like a written form, what would be the definition of evil? And whilst you're thinking about it and telling us, I'll Google define evil and see what we get.
I would probably say evil is again a very moral construct. So I would say the definition is probably something along the lines of um, does things against the um, oh God, I can't think of the word I want, against the community or
Ooh,
whatever you call that collective.
okay. So I've Google defined evil. No pictures of you have come up yet, but there are four pictures that have come up. One being a little devil emoji, which I think is interesting and quite telling. It's clearly quite a Western thing. There's another picture of a word, EVIL. There's some random thing I think that looks like someone with a pitchfork. And then there's just some man with glasses with evil written underneath them. So that's what's coming up on the Google image search. It says evil dictionary, profoundly immoral and wicked. Or, as a noun, profound immorality and wickedness, especially when regarded as a supernatural force. His struggle against the forces of evil. That's interesting. Thinking of evil as a supernatural force. That would even be, some would might even consider that to be some of these energies that we talk about. Because people talk about love energy and such, and love being a stream of energy that people tap into for all sorts of new age shitty magics. Is there one for evil? Is evil a stream? I've never really thought
Well,
of it
I
as
think it
one.
goes kind of Star Wars version of the world. This polarities point of view.
Mm.
There is a if there's a great good, there must be a great evil to balance things out.
Well, here's a big one. This is the one that comes up on a Google search with pictures and that. Evil, in a general sense, is defined as the opposite or absence of good. No shit, Sherlock. I mean, come on. It can be an extremely broad concept, I'll give him that. Although in everyday usage, it is often more narrowly used to talk about profound wickedness and against common good. So that's going what you were saying, going against the tribe, I suppose. Is it?
That would be kind of what. That's my way. That's me trying to define something that is moral and Western, I guess, is entirely reliant on Western ethics. I'm not sure the Eastern concept of evil is exactly the same. What's interesting is the repeated use of the word wickedness. I don't feel we use enough wickedness. I want to be wicked. I like that.
Do you have a craving for it? A craving to be wicked? And by wicked, what does that mean? Does that mean throwing some sort of sass at someone, throwing shade on people, or does that mean wicked as in having another Pringle? Oh, how wicked I am. Stealing candy from a baby? Maybe that's wicked. I don't know. What's your idea of wicked? Because I consider it to be like one of those kind of amusing compliments people give you. Like you're a bad boy. When someone calls you a bad boy, I generally think that's flirting.
Yeah, no, I think wickedness makes me think of dropping a house on somebody or stealing something from a good person.
Oh, but come on, is there truly any good quote unquote people in the world? What do you define as a good person?
Oh, well, that's
One
even
that does
trickier.
more nicey stuff than baddie stuff.
Maybe.
Oh, I can see you're in profound deep thought now. I've triggered something.
Oh, I like the word wickedness, and I'm trying to kind of define it in real terms. As my students would say, IRL, in real life. I really don't like it.
IRL. Oh my gosh.
All the students are like live in virtual worlds now, don't they? So they have the shorthand for short for reality, which I think is really sweet.
It's very creepy. Well, very creepy. Showing our ages now, aren't we? That's not really a thing in real life. You want to meet up? What, IRL? Because you say
Yeah.
when someone says you want to meet up, you actually have to say like in person, and they go like, "What, IRL?" As in, what do you mean? You mean actually in real life, in person meet up, not just like text, FaceTime later. That is what
Yeah.
this world has come to. And I mean, like, I can understand that most people are coming out of lockdown kind of ideas from all this pandemic-y stuff, where people get locked in their houses and that, can't go out other than to walk the dog for an hour. But you know, this in real life thing is interesting. When people say evil, I always have like a warm, fuzzy feeling about evil because when I compare evil, I don't necessarily see evil as bad. Like, bad is you're naughty, you've done the wrong thing. Bad is someone else telling you you've done something that they dislike, right? Evil to me, I think of um, really cool costumes and great one-liners and style because I think of supervillains when I think evil.
That's the
You know,
thing.
I don't really think like evil as in like terrible Adolf Hitler or those types of things. That doesn't strike me as evil.
No, same.
Maybe that's something else, but it doesn't. That doesn't immediately come to my mind. What immediately comes to my mind is like supervillains when it's evil. Somewhat camp, great one-liners, good sense of style, really progress the plot line, you know? Because there's this TV show I'm watching at the moment, and we'll get onto magic and witchcraft at some point, no doubt, but there's this TV show, right? that someone was talking to me about, so I thought I'll give this a go. It's called The Boys, and it's on Amazon, right? And it's about superheroes, but they're basically all assholes. Okay, because all these superhero movies like Superman and that, yeah, they go through their struggles. They might go dark for a little bit, but genuinely they're like goody goodies, aren't they? Apart from maybe Deadpool. Whereas everyone in this The Boys show thing, they've all got like their own agendas. They're all, as you would imagine, real superheroes to be like. Right? They're all attention-seeking fame whores, you know? And I find the whole concept of that really rather fascinating. There's this one person in it who's supposed to be like a bad baddie. Homelander, his name is. I don't want to spoil it, so anyone that hasn't watched this, you should, turn us off now. But he's basically self-obsessed, self-absorbed, and he does really bad things. But would I describe him as evil? I don't know.
That's my general MO.
Is your general MO is to be self-absorbed? I know that. But are you evil? Because I don't think you do that much evil shit. I think if you're to do something evil, it's generally on a whim, you know? You generally do it without thinking about it. I think you're not the sort, like, I'm the sort to stew on something and think, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to think, yeah, I definitely want to go through with this, but I want to make it worse than I originally, at the time, thought I would make it, you know? You're a little bit more kind of, I think, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen immediately after someone's upset you. I'm British, best served cold type. But anyway, there's this superhero baddie who's called Homelander, and it all stems from, like, from what I can tell, insecurity. And for me, he does really nasty things that I wouldn't want to do myself and I dislike, and I sympathize with some people in that. It's difficult to sympathize with some of them because they're all, most of them are assholes, which is what I quite like. It's very real life. It's very IRL, Chris. As opposed to AOL, if that's still a thing. But yeah, it's like I dislike it, and I think that with a lot of these kind of storylines and that, you have someone that's like that, that's very dislikable, that everyone's supposed to hate, but that's just, and they get away with it, but that's just so that it makes it all the more satisfying when eventually they get killed off or have to suffer or something like that, which eventually you'll probably end up getting killed off or something. But like, it is one of those things. I was listening to someone talk about why TV shows and movies and stuff like that nowadays are really shit. And a lot of it is due to the evil characters, the baddies, being really weak. Like the whole Star Wars franchise did that, didn't it, with those latest movies that came out? It's like you can't really sympathize with the characters because the baddies in it are really weak, the goodies in it are really weak, and they're just all a pile of cucks, I think. I think that's the term that gets banded around. And I do think that in order for a hero to shine, they need to be up against something that's actually quite dangerous and scary and that. And a lot of villains and stuff that you see nowadays, look at what they did to the Daleks and that in Doctor Who. They're just so easily defeated all the time, you know. It's not even like there's a lot of effort that seems to go with it. I know that's probably just poor writing, but I don't know. I mean, evil is against the common good, I suppose you'd say. But there was also this thing that I was watching. It was some old thing from the BBC archive, Torchwood, I think it's called. And in it, they basically had these aliens, and they had to, basically, the aliens wanted 10% of the children in the world. So the governments and that to get together and say, look, are we going to do this? Are we not going to do this? And one of them chimed up and said, look, I know we're all thinking this. Why don't we, if we have to give 10% of the children, we'll just give all the poor ones and the ones that don't do very well at school. You know, all the scumbaggy, you know, cheapo poor ones, not the middle class ones, not the nice ones or the ones with the good grades. Let's just have a little look at the schooling system and the records and everything and see what all the poor achievers are, and we'll round them up and give them. And I was thinking that's very logical. That's incredibly logical, because they're thinking, well, all these people, they're going to end up on benefits. They're going to end up being bad. You know, they're going to be the future people that are just going to get locked up in prison anyway. Why don't we just, you know, and we've got a problem with overpopulation, that why don't we just get rid of the dregs? And I sat there and I thought, that is immoral. I think that is immoral. But is that the right thing to do? Because I think there's two options, really. There's to have a lottery of random people get, you know, a lottery of, oh, sorry, your numbers come up, we'll give you to the aliens, right? So that's an option, which I think is the general consensus as to what would be the best option, possibly. Second option would be get rid of all of the trouble, the dregs and all that kind of thing. And then the third option is, well, we should just all die. I can't choose between what children, so all as a species will just get exterminated and killed off. And I'm kind of thinking, well, to me, I see the merit in that, because I've worked with a number of magical traditions that have also taken that stance of, well, we have magical knowledge and stuff to bestow, but no one's worthy. Do we water it down and give it out to the masses, or do we just go extinct with the last initiate? And generally speaking, they always just go extinct. Interesting. So evil. Does being evil have a price? Ultimately, from what I can tell in this world, it's all about power. It's not about necessarily what is right and what is wrong. Most of the time, I believe, is what you can get away with. And you may be evil or may not be evil, but ultimately, who gets to decide that? I like to think of myself as evil. I often go and tell people that I'm evil. But unfortunately, some people disagree with me. People that I've been nice to in the past or have gone out of my way to help say, Liam, you are not evil. You are such a nice person. But at the same time, some people really do think that I may be the Antichrist, the devil incarnate. They think that I'm evil, truly evil. But that's probably just because they're biased, because of the evil things I've done to them, Chris.
Probably.
But were those things justified? Difficult, isn't it? There's this TV show I'm yet to watch that I've been told. I think it's called Dexter, where it's like a serial killer that kills other serial killers. And I think, well, is that good or bad? It's like, well, he's doing a service by killing serial killers to a certain extent, but then it depends on where you look at it. I mean, if we do have an overpopulation problem, is probably the sort of thing we should encourage, but from a morality perspective, you know, is that something that we should encourage or not? Is the true test whether you can get away with it? Because I always say that it is. You know, when I've got students that want to do really bad things, I say, look, you may go and do this really bad piece of magic, and you may go and end up screwing someone or something over, or destroying something. You may get what you seek. Okay, you may destroy this other person that you dislike. How will you feel about that? Well, some people feel fucking great afterwards. I'm not going to lie. Some people love it. Some people feel great sense of fulfillment, closure, all of that kind of thing. Other people feel, well, I've turned into a monster and I dislike it and I wish I'd never done that. But, you know, it's a difficult one, because I think we're supposed to feel, or if you believe television and stuff, you're supposed to think, well, if something evil has been done to you and you go and take revenge and do an evil thing on that culprit, you are no better than the culprit. But at the same time, like I've actually met people that have got great fulfillment out of seeing a close to that. At the same time, I've seen people that are like, I really need to abandon this, because actually watching that person that did that thing to me now weep and cry in sorrow and be in such pain actually makes me feel bad, even though they've done far worse to me. I need to close and end this working. It's very, very much individual, Chris. which is probably why we don't have a moral code, I guess, isn't it? Well, I don't mean we as in us individually. I mean we as in like putting together a list of things we do and don't do. I think the only thing that we ever agreed on was that we not negatively affect people for multiple lifetimes. But like having people experience true pain, I don't think that we are innately opposed to that, are we?
No, some people need it.
Could you give an example?
Well, some people, and this is where it gets complicated, I think, for some people, and would probably why they would put me in the evil category. I think there is a certain amount of growth that can be gained from negative things.
Oh, definitely.
It doesn't work for everybody. But I think living in a perfect world where nothing bad ever happens and no one ever grows is not particularly great. You know, if you were to look at a small plant, in order for it to last a lifetime, it needs to come against the wind in order to strengthen its core. Those sorts of things. They're kind of like, you know, obviously it doesn't necessarily need a forest fire, but bearing in mind some forest fires are required in order to renew the space. So I don't know. It's one of those tricky things, and I think for us, it's not about morality, and is more about its worthiness. So is it worthy of having the energy required to put something right, or is there actually something to be gained out of the negative? Because let's face it, neither of us go necessarily chasing money or glory. So I don't know. I think that kind
You've
of
never seen me in an egg and spoon race.
puts us
I
in
race to win, Chris. I race to win. And I'm perfectly happy to cheat with one of those rubber eggs as well.
So, but then these are kind of petty wars rather than ones that matter.
Okay. What's the last war you were in that matters? Let's be fair at that. It depends on your perspective. See, what perspective are you looking through? What goggles are you looking through today? We'll see how high up on your high horse you are today. Calibrate the rest of the show in accordance.
Let's just say it's pretty high at the moment.
Right. Well, there is evil and suffering in the world, and you know, is logical. There is evil and suffering in the world for a reason. Okay, so get rid of, and these people that want to get rid of pain and suffering for the world, we both see how futile that is, right? Because I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying that on that level, when dealing with that level, all you're doing is transfer, right? All you're doing is transferring that to somewhere else. Okay. So when it comes to pain and suffering, I think one thing that we agree with is probably that we dislike inefficiency.
Yeah.
So if someone's going through something and we personally don't think or cannot see it being useful in any way, shape, or form, we're inclined to probably step in and do something. But at the same time, if we see that being useful, okay, in some way, shape, or form to their continued development or something, we're probably the least likely to help you. We're not even going to try because we agree with the suffering and pain that you're going through, or the evil person. Something that people don't understand. People think, and I've had conversations with people about like greater cosmic understanding and stuff, and people get upset and they say, well, the gods, or, you know, some of the religious monotheistic say, well, if God existed, how could God allow such terrible, destructive, horrible things like the little creatures that burrow into the eyes of children and that? It's like, well, how else is that child going to understand that nature of pain? You know, it all adds to it. To me, fear and a dislike, but ultimately fear, in the form of trying to wipe evil out, because we dislike pain, you know. I dislike hurting myself. If I get hurt, you know, I dislike it. It's not a nice experience. I understand the nature of it, but those people who, well, it shows, if you want to wipe out pain, if you want to wipe out evil in its entirety, a lack of understanding of the nature of this universe and the various other universes that are connected to it / stacked upon or underneath of it, depending on how you want to look at it. But there we go. I suppose that's a subject really for the Patreon, isn't it? So we have talked about some of the evil things that we've both done before, but I think we've only discussed them on Patreon. So I think we'll leave that there and not talk about. We might end up getting lynched or something.
I'm not scared of their tortures.
But no, have you ever had to guide people through that step? Because there's an important thing, I think, in any witch, magician, magical practitioner's life, where they really do have to come face to face with their understanding of evil, the nature of evil. What do they think evil is? Why do they think evil exists? And in regards to them and their own actions. So we've got people that are like, oh, I couldn't possibly do a bitch be gone spell.
That's you.
I couldn't possibly do that because it's just nasty. Oh, sorry, hay fever. And I kind of think, what makes you think that that would happen in a bad way? Why do you think that doing a spell that means that the person you dislike or have a problem with disappears from your life, what makes you think that they're going to end up in a 3-car pileup on the motorway or something? What makes you think that they're going to suffer? Why can they not get a promotion or something like that? And is this kind of little thread of their understanding of how the universe works, and really is stereotypes, which is what I dislike and what we need to push past, which is, okay, someone needs to be gone. Someone needs to be out of my life. I need to push someone away. And to some, pushing away is a negative. And therefore, because it's a negative, it can only happen in a negative way. But realistically, if a child is drowning in a lake, pushing them out of the lake is probably the good thing. You know, it's like if you've got an enemy in work, not a frenemy, but an enemy, and you both dislike each other and you're both making each other's lives hell, probably not a nice experience for either of you, right? So it may be good to remove you both from the situation or take one of you away. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a bad way. What people get confused with, I think, is this idea of revenge. This idea of that when a great bad thing happens, like say I had a wife and 2 kids, just imagine for a second, imagine you've got a good imagination. I got a wife and 2 kids, and some murderer breaks in at night and kills those people. What's supposed to happen is that person gets found, arrested, and then goes to prison and that, right? I'm not supposed to murder that person because apparently that's immoral and goes against what the justice system in this country says is supposed to happen, right? I know it may be different in the rest of the world, but there is no eye for an eye situation, right? Interesting. I think what we'll do is we'll delve into the eye for an eye type thing in evil and the nature of things in the Soft Witchcraft Patreon, because in the Soft Witchcraft Patreon, which you can join for a small fee, we go into things in a lot more detail in the extended editions of these here No Holds Barred Witchcraft episodes. So we'll join you over there, you who are not too stingy to pay for it, right? The free pangs or whatever it is.